Hello, everyone. I'm Dan Saavedra from MergeYourData, and this is day 5 of the 90-day YouTube sprint where we're talking all about signal analytics here. It's our own signal experiment, and so we're trying to see if we get positive signals from our organic YouTube content as we have in the past. Today, I'm going to be talking about something that we've heard from customers after we provide services and point out negative signals. We point out campaigns that aren't driving any measurable results, which is they're stressed about cutting a marketing campaign. How can they be sure that it's the right thing to cut? And this is a difficult question, especially if you have larger budgets. Then cutting a significant campaign can be really nerve-wracking. You're not sure how much of an impact it has on your brand and your other campaigns that are running at the same time. So I say campaigns here, but we're talking about overall strategies as well. So let's keep that in mind as we move on. So before I start, I'm Dan Saavedra, founder of MergeYourData. If you watch the other videos here in the sprint, I'm the founder of MergeYourData, a signal analytics firm. So this is the stuff we do all the time. These presentations are from learnings that we have interacting with prospects, with customers day to day, specifically in B2B style companies. I've been in data for 12 years doing everything from basic analysts work to architecture and stuff like that. So who feels like this? This is across a few different roles here. Small business owners who are more in touch with what marketing campaigns are running, what strategies they are attacking. Marketing executives obviously control this budget in various organizations, can be small, can be a larger one, but they're the ones who ultimately make the decisions on whether or not to cut a strategy and the campaigns within those strategies. And then third, less common, but also, in my opinion, one of the more difficult ones to navigate, individual contributors who are responsible for specific campaigns. So you could be an individual contributor building these. You can see the data yourself because you're not being micromanaged and you have to report to your superiors, to your leadership about what's happening. And so you could be facing this because maybe some of the campaigns that you're responsible for just aren't working and you need to take another approach. Why it's hard for these people, all three of these roles, is what if you cut something and revenue drops? So you can think and see with all the data that this has no measurable impact on what's going on and the revenue that's being driven. But what if you do cut it and revenue does drop? What if that revenue drop is not associated with your cut, but it just happens at the same time? Correlation doesn't necessarily mean causation. What happens if you cut it and it was caused by your decision to cut that strategy? So I don't know if I said that right. What happens if you cut the strategy and the campaigns in the strategy and your revenue does drop and it was actually caused by your cutting action? And then second, what if people think I'm a bad marketer since something didn't work? So for this one, I've got bad news. If you have thin skin, you're probably not going to make it as a marketer because you're constantly experimenting. You are going to fail. This isn't exclusive to marketers, but just in general, life is about experimenting here and finding out what works. And so you're going to have things that don't work and you're going to need to make the decision to cut them. And some of that might come with blowback from people who don't really understand how difficult it can be to find a winning strategy for a business. And so for that part, it's just kind of what goes with the role. You get the glory sometimes if a marketing campaign is wildly successful, and then you deal with the bad when people are trying to tell you what to do for your job and they see that you are currently failing at certain things. So it's just a part of the gig. So what to do? First thing is what to do to know that it's the right thing to cut a strategy and the campaigns within it or portions of it. Number one, you have to know your signals. You have to know these really big positive and negative signals, data points that are showing whether or not a person going into your funnel, into the deal stages that you have set up, is actually going to convert into a customer. There will be positive ones telling you that there's a good chance that they will continue and that they're a good fit. And there are negative ones that say this person is never going to be a customer or really shouldn't ever be a customer And so you have to pay attention to those as well. And so you need to define these and measure them if you don't know what the signals are currently. And so it's not unusual for people to not know what these signals are. Maybe they have a blurry version of signals, something that they tried to do with attribution, or maybe a pipeline analysis, or maybe they're looking into demographics of people who have converted. But signals are very specific and they can be broken down in many ways, uh, whether it's by the account, whether it's by the individual, the contact, and all the associated traits with them, whether it's the touch points, the channel, the messaging, everything like that are dimensions and measures within a signal data point. So the measures is obviously going to be the end result, the person who gave you money, that is the measure, and then the characteristics about each and every person, account, whatever I just named there, those are the dimensions there that you're going to be able to break down the data by, the revenue data by. Next, you need to cut it incrementally. So what I mean by that is you need to take these negative signals associated with specific campaigns and specific strategies. You need to find the ones that are very strong, that show you that 99.999% of people, of whether it's contacts, whether it's accounts, coming into your pipeline from that specific strategy and campaign are not converting. They are just not good fits for whatever reason. They are coming into your pipeline through that channel, through that campaign specifically, whatever the messaging is. You need to take those very big negative signals and cut the campaigns and the strategies that are leading to those negative signals. Don't do it all at once. Do portions of it. Measure again in whatever time period is correct based off of your typical time from first impression or first contact all the way to close. So you need to make sure that it's an appropriate length of time where you can measure the success of qualified prospects getting to a certain point in the customer journey. And so once you determine that time frame and you cut incrementally, then you go back and look and see, was revenue negatively impacted by that? If it was, obviously you shouldn't be cutting it, or you should dive deeper into why revenue dropped and whether it was actually caused by you cutting the campaigns and strategies that you were measuring before. Because sometimes other things can happen in the organization that affect that. So maybe something changed with the sales team, maybe something changed with the product, and that negatively impacted revenue, not necessarily the campaigns that you were running. But if it is caused by the campaign that you're running, reverse it. Next, eliminate it when signal data confirms no impact. So if revenue remains steady or it goes up, then obviously you know that that campaign that you cut was not working. And so you can cut that for now, and then you can either go through another chunk of the campaigns in that strategy that you are looking at cutting, or you could go for a bigger chunk if you're a little risky. I always like to do it incrementally, and then eventually you work your way through the whole strategy, and that strategy is shut down. So top campaigns to cut for B2B companies. This is what we've seen as the categories of campaigns that really didn't drive much return overall, even from a branding aspect. It's not like it was leading to revenue down the line. One is branded search. From what we've seen, it's pretty much a waste of money. If people are searching for your company, then they are going to click on the organic result, which is hopefully showing up in the first 2 or 3 results, if not the top. If they're not, if you're paying to be up there at the top of that branded search, then you're just wasting money, because people might click the top one, even though they were going to click you in the organic results. They just saw it up there first. And so they're going to click that. So that's a huge waste that we see a lot of savings off of with no recordable drop in revenue for the companies that we work with. Check your own data. Second, large investment in-person events. So if you're spending a lot of money to either set up and host events or to be a booth at a specific event, there's a good chance that this is not returning the type of revenue that you would really want to. Now, there are exceptions to this, so you have to know the data around your events. If you're hosting the entire event, if you're bringing your own audience, your own clients, then it can be a very, very worthwhile activity. If you are paying to be at someone else's event, or for whatever reason you're hosting an event and the targeting wasn't good and so your ICP isn't there, those can be a huge waste. So that's something to look at to cut. Next is non-targeted ads. So if you look at your data, you should be able to see whether or not the platforms that you're paying for ads to show up on are getting in front of the right people. And if they are not, then that's a good area to look to cut and incrementally test by shaving budget little by little and seeing what impact that has on revenue. Certain platforms are great at targeting, and you can really get in front of the people that you're looking for. And then other platforms are too broad and they show up on all these network placements and stuff like that are just a giant waste of money. And so that's a third one that we typically see are good places to cut in terms of campaign spend. So what if you're saying, I can't let you go? This feels like too much. What if it's 10% of my budget, but that's $500,000 in spend or more? That can feel like a big cut to execute. What does that do to revenue? So usually the suggested approach, other than incrementally cutting the spend for a specific strategy and the campaigns within, is to replace cut campaigns with similar channel experiments. So if you are feeling bad about cutting something in a broad category, if it's branded search, then you can cut the branded search and then experiment with that budget that you save in similar experiments. So you do a small experiment, measure the signals behind it, and see if that experiment is working, and then you can scale budget up, and you didn't have to shut down the whole strategy. It turns out there was something else going on in the campaign you were running that was wrong. And so you figure it out in a new experiment. So that way you can, instead of just shutting something down and then not knowing what to do with the budget, you can put it into an opportunity for new growth. And then last but not least here, focus on what works. Hammer into the signals and cohorts that work. You need to know these signals. You need to be able to break them down in 50 different ways to understand the exact customer journey that's happening and whether or not the signals along the way are positive or negative or neutral. 2, understand everything about them. I already said that. Know them. 3, brainstorm hyper-targeted experiments. The more specific you can get to your ICP when you are experimenting, the faster you'll be able to determine positive signals and negative signals with those experiments. So you just want to be as hyper-targeted as possible. 4, reallocate cut strategy budgets into these experiments, like I talked about on the last slide there. When you are cutting budget, why not reallocate it, if you have it for the year, into small experiments that you can then grow off of. And then 5, find new promising signals while saving budget. So it's part of that reallocation. If you cut 10% of your budget overall, maybe you allocate 2% to small experiments and then save the rest for when you find a successful experiment so you can scale it all within the same budget in the same year. So this was video 5. Next video, we're gonna do the same thing, going to another problem, deep dive, and then talk about how signal analytics can help you solve it. Now, these videos I'm doing just live here, no editing or anything like that. So this is new to me. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I want to hear everything, negative and positive, because live speaking is something new to me. So I'm just kind of going off the top. If you want to follow along, subscribe on the channel or click on the link in the description so you can get email notifications when a new video is released. I am Dan Saavedra. Thanks for watching.